invite us, if you're comfortable doing so, to start off on your belly. And if that's just awkward for you, then be on your back, as we often are at the beginning of practice. But I want to start off on our abdomen and get really beautiful contact with the belly and the earth. Also, when we breathe into our belly with the floor as a reference point, hopefully we also feel the breath more profoundly into the back. And we become aware of our 360-degree breathing and breath apparatus. I will just mention that I got a technique for removing scar tissue called gua sha. So if you see some funny marks on my neck and so on, that's what it is. It doesn't hurt, but it looks pretty funny. So as you're ready, come on down to your belly, and you might turn your head to the side so that your temple is maybe resting on your hands, or again, whatever is comfortable for you. And as you take that position and you turn your eyes inward, intend that you are placing a boundary on the world, the ideas, all the needs and wants out there that the world wants of you, as well as the ways that you're truly inspired to extend and share with the world. For right now, very intentionally, turn it inward, all that life force that you have, all that awareness. Turn your gaze up towards that third eye point, right between the eyebrows and a little up. What do you see there behind your eyelids today? Colors, darkness. And tune your attention in to your breath. Invitation to gather long, slow inhales, really letting the belly expand, big Buddha belly. And on the exhale, if it feels natural, just let a sigh emanate. Continue. This is your practice. There is nothing to know, do, or accomplish. You already did it. You got to the yoga mat. What an act of love. Well done. Inhaling, feel it kind of lifting your body, filling. Exhale, feel that sinking, that giving into gravity, into this moment, this body, this breath. And in a moment, we're going to be coming into movement. And we'll be coming into movement and stillness throughout our practice. And your job, if you will, your one point of attention is to continue breath in the practice. And of course, always adjust the practice to what your body might be needing. If we're on hands and it's bothering your wrists, come down to forearms, and so on and so forth. So, make something up that you maybe think isn't even a yoga pose if it feels great and that's what your body is needing. Make an adjustment to what I'm offering. For now, when you're ready, please join me with the forehead resting on the floor. Fingertips are tented back behind us in kind of a jet airplane, so sort of 45 degrees. Shoulder heads circle back. And in fact, circle your shoulders a couple times, kind of making a big sweep towards the floor, towards your ears, up towards the ceiling and back. And as you are complete, anchor them down the back. Anchor the pelvic triangle. That means squeeze your butt cheeks down. And then on your inhale, begin extending. You might come just an inch off the floor, maybe many. Exhale, return. Again. Root, extend. Feel free to add your ujjayi breath. That's that slight contraction of the throat so that your breath makes the sound of wind in the trees or ocean waves. This is one of my favorite tools for staying present in my body and practice. Ujjayi. It says, be here now. All right, see if you can hold in the next extension and reach your hands off the floor towards the wall behind and just hold and breathe. When I say hold, it doesn't mean that you're absolutely still, right? There's still an opportunity to move and pulse with the breath. If you need to release out completely and come back in, do. Make sure the glutes are anchored. And then inhaling, sweep one arm forward. You're counter reaching back through the other. And switch. And then release, turning your head to your other side. Big belly breath that registers into your back. And then we're going to move back to child's pose, but I want to be really thoughtful about how we do it. So please, once again, anchor your butt cheeks, plant the hands for cobra with your elbows pressing in, shoulders back, and then press the floor away and back to your child's pose. When we do it this way, it's great because we're really using our core, protecting our back, and we're not taking on any shoulder stress. Okay, deep breath there. If you take your knees wide, it offers more space. And then we're going to also move our arms. So lifting your head a little bit, walk your hands to one side, right or left, and settle the head again. Deep breath in that shape. Where do you feel flow? Where do you feel stagnation? Lifting the head, walk the hands to the other side and settle the head. You can keep kind of spider fingers, as I think of it, creeping them away from you to create a more intense stretch. But it's really the breath that is the change agent that comes into this shape and intensifies it. And lifting the head, come on back to center. Nice work. Nice long inhale. On an exhale, tuck your tailbone, rounding your back, and bring those knees in under you for table pose. So we're going to come in and out of cow-cat, but I want us to think about the tailbone leading. So on your inhale, tilt the tailbone back, and then invite the rest of the belly to kind of lower and reach forward now through the heart. Is there more inhale? Exhale, tuck the tailbone and let that tell the whole spine how to curl towards the sky. Letting the head just hang. Again, inhaling, tailbone reaches, the rest of the spine follows. So as you're continuing this movement, it's a great chance to notice what is in your spine. Again, where does it feel sort of sticky or achy or like it just doesn't bend very well? One more round, asking of the breath, is there more? Where do you feel the stretch of breath? And the next time you're in kind of the cat back, we're going to hold it, but not quite as deep, but just keep a little bit of that rounding. And we're going to go side to side. So I'm going to stretch my left shoulder away from my left hip. You might even feel it kind of pressing back a little towards the heels. And then right shoulder away from right hip. And any little organic inspirations you get, take them. Your body knows what it needs usually. You know, if you watch, in fact, animals, cows, cats, dogs, horses, they all know what to do usually to kind of work this stuff out. Good. And then long inhale, cow pose, preparing for our first downward facing dog. And as you come into your cat back, really emphasize those core muscles to take your weight up and back. Send the hips to the sky and towards the wall behind you. In fact, bend your knees and get nice and long through the torso. Maybe wiggle those hips a little side to side. Good. Now take those feet wide and bend the knees even deeper. You might even kind of come into a squat, sending those butt towards the floor. Then inhale, just flow a little forward, kind of like you're coming into a plank, but not all the way, and press back. So a nice shoulder warming. I say nice, but if this is bothering a shoulder for you, don't go that far or don't add this motion. We'll meet up with you. Last one here. Nice work. And then we're going to come onto our hands and knees again. So again, if your wrists are getting a little tired, definitely roll them out. But you could also join us on forearms for this next practice. This is some really good hip evolution that I think you'll enjoy. So as you're ready, take one knee out to the side and just hold a moment. Notice if you've bent your elbows or you've slid your body to compensate, and instead straighten both arms and keep your body steady. So if you bring your knee back, it's as if your body never moved. You take that leg out to the side, knee bent. One more breath. And release. Good. Other side. Nice deep breathing as we do this. It tells the body, I am well, I am whole, I'm safe, and woohoo, I'm strong. And you can release it and come back in. One more deep breath. And release. Again, love up your wrists. Alternately, by the way, you can come on to fists. You would want the thumbs straight forward and fingers folded in. So we're going to add some total range of motion here. So taking one leg back, heel flexed, and then turning the foot outward and bending the knee. Bring the knee as far forward as you can towards your tricep, and then continue your circle. So notice if you're taking on neck tension while you're doing this, try to tell it to remain soft. Make sure your center core body is doing the work for you. And let's find the other side. So that leg goes straight back, heel flexed, then towards the outside with the foot turning, toes turning forward, knee bending to come in by your arm, and continuing. Is the side different? What's happening in this hip, in this knee? Can you stay strong in the core, soft in the neck? Are you getting hot? I am, because we're using, if we're doing it right, we are using a lot of the big muscles in the body here. Whew. And release. Good. Relax those wrists a moment, and then as you're ready, walk them forward just about one hand length. You can always make more adjustments, but I want you to come down into a knee down, upward facing dog. Okay, so the shoulders are right over the hands, and the knees are far enough back to allow me to create this nice sort of swag, but the glutes are contracted, nice and present. Deep inhale, exhale, press back, either child's pose or downward facing dog. What does your practice need right now? Inhaling, exhaling, sigh. And if you're not already in downward facing dog, invitation to join us. And I want to offer just first a little kick. You're going to just take one heel at a time, like you're kind of kicking your butt. And you can keep doing that. And by the way, you could do a version of that in your table pose. You'd have to bring your leg up and then kind of kick, right? If you would like to join me briefly in a hop, please do. Make sure that those hands are delivering the energy of the hips up and back, and then just hop, 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 like you're kicking your butt. And maybe you actually are. Last one there. Woo! Coming onto your back body. We're going to come into bridge pose. So if you know that you tend to let your knees splay apart a little bit, or that you walk with your feet out, that would be another kind of indicator that we need to really wake up those inner thighs. You could place your block right between there to squeeze into. Feet are parallel. Arms are anchoring, so you can either use just the upper arm or the entire arm. Either way, shoulder heads are working their way under. So hopefully your neck feels pretty relaxed. Long inhale, slow, deep and wide. Is there more? Exhaling, bridge pose. Is there more? We're going to slowly descend on the inhale. We'll do this a few times before holding. And this is a great time to check in with your neck to try and unwind any habit you may have of tightening the neck, of using the head to create the pose. It's very common. So if you're doing that, you're pretty normal, but we can retrain ourselves. Next time you are up, whole, pause. If your feet are wide, you're going to want to bring them in because this gets too hard otherwise. Leg extensions. So you're straightening one leg at a time. Now, alternately, if this is just too much, your back isn't ready for it, or your knee or something isn't, remember you can also just shift your weight from foot to foot. And that might be another nice way to, what we're doing is waking up all of the muscles and kind of neural firing in our pelvic girdle here. Breathing. And hopefully as we go back and forth, you can feel increased stability. Yeah, I can feel how powerful you are. And come slowly, slowly down, knees to belly. Go ahead and take it a little side to side, whatever feels juicy. And we're going to come into our reclined pigeons. So planting both feet, cross the right ankle onto the left thigh. And then if you can, hug the whole deal towards your chest, wrapping your hands around your right knee and then rotating a little bit to the left until you find that treasure hunt available in your right hip and glute. If this doesn't work for you very well, you can keep your floor foot or that left foot on the floor and hug the knee best you can, or if it's hard to reach, you could use a strap. When we're doing this, delivering the stretch to the hip, we want to make sure though that we're not overworking again, neck and shoulders. So find that anchored down position of the shoulders. Breathing, let the breath inspire a little pulse in the pose. As we hold for another breath or two, you might even check it out if you hold also your foot and bring that towards you. Does that give you a better angle or no? And slowly we'll create the other side. I love noticing all the enlivenment, the circulation happening in that butt and hip that we just worked. So now left ankle crossing the right thigh, hugging that left knee. Neck is relaxed. You can even roll the head side to side to check in with it. And how far to the side is the right amount? So as you kind of go to the right, where do you get that stretch that is intense, but that you can kind of breathe into, invite it to release any stagnant energy there? And again, maybe grabbing the foot with the right hand and drawing that towards you. That allows you to kind of play with the angle of that left lower leg. Deep breath. One more big inhale. Send it way down into the pelvis. And release and come on back. Good. We're going to take our feet now nice and wide. And this next stretch is wonderful for, again, just enlivening the whole, kind of all of the ligament connections and stuff down the leg and all the way up into the inner thigh. So you're going to drop one knee down towards the center line and then the other. But you want to go very slowly so you can notice if there's anything that's just like an icky pull. We're not interested in that. We want to feel that we're getting into something that wants the stretch, that is ready for it. And then you might hold one knee down and then reaching up with the same arm. So I've got my left knee down. I'm going to reach my left arm up behind me. Deep, deep breath. You can even, if it's feeling good, you can even kind of use the muscles of the left leg to press the knee down a little bit more. And let's switch. Other knee down. Same arm of that knee is reaching up behind. Your body's like, thank you so much for making all these shapes that are different than just sitting, walking, standing, laying down, right? And slowly back to center. All right, we're going to come into our robot. I want to give us another layer of getting into our core today before we come into some of our other strength building postures. So if you want, you can start with knees to belly and take that moment to really anchor. What does it take to push your back into the floor? Boom, like you're pushing on a scale. Nice long inhale. Feet are flexed. Bring the legs parallel but not touching. And on that exhale, deep rooting, slowly take your knees forward until they're about above the hips. We call this double 90, and we always maintain that 90 degree at the knees. But when we're ready, on the next exhale, we're going to hinge at the hip and bring one heel towards the floor. And then come on back. And ideally, we're going far enough to get some real good challenge to these core muscles, keeping rooted, but that we're not having to tighten the neck, we're not letting the lower back come away. If you'd like a little more challenge, you might add the arms either just straight up and holding or adding into the movement. So on your next exhale, one heel goes towards the floor, opposite arm reaching for the wall behind. Don't let the other limbs move, especially that right knee in this case. And come on back. Inhaling slow, deep, and wide. Exhale, rooting, and other leg and other arm. Again, don't let your stable knee move. It's going to want to come towards you to compensate. So this is, of course, to your breath and also whatever is the right level of effort for you. So if you want to just take a break, come back in. But I want to stay here for another, sort of half a dozen back and forths, whatever your version might be. Inhaling in neutral. Really commit to that inhale. Exhaling, rooting, and going into your movement. Now another option is you could hold in your shape and breathe there, what I call in flight. It's a great way to practice breathing deeply into our abdomen, even when we're using those abdominal muscles. Again, always inhaling in your neutral before exhaling and going into movement. If you're using the arms, check that they're karate chop straight. They're not trying to reach the floor, they're trying to reach for the wall behind you. Or you're just holding them towards the ceiling. Make sure you complete both sides and then come on in, knees to belly again. All right, we're going to come on up to standing. And if you like spinal rocking and that's a good adventure in your body, great. It can be kind of fun to see how much momentum does it take to get onto your feet but not face plant. But however you'd like to come there, go for it. So we're going to do a movement which is a lot like that reclined pigeon that we did, except that I'm going to be actually grabbing my leg. Now this may not work for everybody, in which case, by the way, you could simply do raising the knee up, which is, again, already a great workout, a great effort. But we're going to start at one end of the mat. It doesn't matter, we're going to go back and forth, so pick one end. Enjoy a lovely long in-breath. And on your exhale, pushing the earth away with your standing leg, bring the other knee up towards you, and then if you can, bring it across your body in that pigeon movement. Complete that exhale. And inhaling, release. Step forward a little bit. Exhaling, bring that other knee up. Maybe clasping it in that little pigeon motion. Otherwise, you might just have the arms out to the side. Nice long exhale, rooting and reaching. And inhaling, take that step forward. So, it doesn't matter how high this knee is coming. If in fact you're just doing a beautiful balancing pose on one foot with one knee a little off the floor, arms out, awesome. Inhaling, stepping, exhaling, creating your motion. And one of the key things I'm interested in is the root and rise, right? That we refined the invigoration of the body upright. When you reach the end of your mat, turn around. We're going to go one more time the other direction. So inhaling, slow, deep and wide. Exhaling, create your shape. Root and rise. Is there more? Inhaling, take your step. Big belly breath. Exhaling, create your pose. Inhaling and step, exhaling and pose. So again, our breath timing is different. Slow yours down as much as you can. Again, asking, is there more? That's where I love using that ujjayi. When I can hear ujjayi in my head, it means I've still got breath moving. Last couple here. This is where we really want to talk to the thigh muscles of that standing leg, squeezing towards the bone, pushing the earth away. Beautiful. Release and step sideways on your mat. And we're just going to right away start going side to side. And it's kind of nice sometimes just to have your hands right here where the hip and the thigh join, and you kind of go, oh yeah, I was just working that area a lot, stretching it. And now we really want to strengthen it. So make sure you start now pushing with your foot, really activating to send yourself the other way, like you're skiing or rollerblading, something like that. And then start reaching. I love this pose because it gives us a spinal twist along with a lot of muscular activity. Breathing. Your breath does not need to match the movement, so however you would like to do it. Timing, you can speed it up. It can be fun to breathe through the mouth a little bit. In general, in yoga, we breathe through the nose for a whole variety of reasons, but sometimes it can also feel really good to just express through the mouth, kind of dump a load of stagnant energy. See if you can go down towards the earth and then hold to one side. If this doesn't work, by the way, hands on the thigh and holding to that side. And so you've got a nice straight back. You don't want to put a lot of pressure on your low back. And other side. And return to center. Bring those feet in a little bit. Turn the toes out a little bit. This is just a comfortable way to come on up. Inhale, root and rise. Exhaling, prayer hands. Take a deep breath. Notice what you're creating in your body already. We're going to step to the front of the mat again. And we haven't done our train tracks in a little while, so we're gonna do that. And it's pretty straightforward. You just need to start with your feet straight forward. Pretty straightforward. Which yours may naturally be, or you may kind of be turned out more. So find that straightforward, maybe 6 inches apart. Hands on hips for a reference point, and just step back with one foot onto the ball of the foot. Now in your mind's eye, you want to set that back heel down to the mat in the same train track. Pause, look underneath. For most of us, the heel will be inward. So see if you can move it out so that it is in the track again, and come back up. And notice what that feels like. Some of us will feel some interesting stretches along the side of the leg, the calf, even in the quad. If you're not feeling anything, try walking that front foot a little bit forward and pause. Breathe. Let's add a little tricep work here, folks. So pressing down through the hands and then back a little bit. You don't want to go too far back because that's going to rotate your shoulders out of alignment. So I just noticed my weight I almost lost my balance, my weight kind of going to the outside of the front foot. That's a great indication that you're not using the inner thigh and pelvic floor to root down enough. See if you can find a little more power through the inner line of the foot. Breathing. Good. And then inhaling, sweep those arms up, root and reach, push into the earth with those heels, and then return. Mountain. Notice what's happening in the body. And place the hands on the hips again, the other foot stepping back. Again, if you have a tendency towards those feet turning out, you may have to visually check them each time you come back into mountain. Slowly set your heel into the tracks. Pause. Observe. Maybe you want to scooch that front foot forward, maybe not. Again, think about that inner thigh powering down into the earth. It's as if there's a kind of scale underneath the ball of the big toe that you want to register some weight with. And then adding the tricep action if you would like. So you're really working hard to straighten the arms. You could also do it with kind of a karate chop blade, but I find that the hand flex also creates a nice stretch. Check in with the legs. Sometimes adding the arms distracts you. The legs are primary here. Don't forget about them. And then a long inhale, root and reach up, pushing the earth away. And exhaling, return and fold ragdoll. Now if your back is sore, you could always just pause, elbows on thighs, or you could even use like an ottoman or something. Otherwise, see if you can let your whole body drape with gravity. You can bend your knees quite deeply. As you can see, I've got my whole belly and chest actually on the thighs. Inhaling, drop the butt and sweep on up. You always want to drop that butt first because then you can come up with a nice supported spine versus kind of rounding up, which puts pressure on the back. We're going to come into some lunging. And again, this is to whatever your ability. Remember, you could even go grab a hold of, a kitchen counter or a chair or something like that. So as we're taking hands down to the mat, you don't necessarily have to. We're going to inhale and sweep up. Maybe you want to add a little butt squeeze. Good. Exhaling, plant your hands and step back with your left leg only into your lunge. So like I said, we're in a low lunge. If you want to be in a slightly higher one, go for it. You could also use blocks. But otherwise, see if you can dip your left knee and straighten the leg. And so you're just allowing, I hope you can feel a wonderful stretch through into the hip flexors, into the quadriceps. Some of us will even feel a stretch down into the knee. Again, you always respect your joints. If they say ouch, you adjust what you're doing. And then if you're able to lay the knee down, great. Inhale, reach up. Again, you don't have to do that part if your knee doesn't like it. And exhaling, return to your ragdoll, front of the mat. Inhaling, root and rise, sweep up. Exhaling, prayer hands. Inhaling, root and rise. Again, add a little back bend. If that's too much on your neck to look up, just stay looking forward. You can still create the hip flexion. And then plant the hands, step back with that right foot only. Nice long spine. So I'm really supported in my core. I'm not hanging with gravity as I dip my right knee and straighten. And if it feels appropriate, hold down on the knee and come on up. You're sending those hips forward and then up with the arms and the heart. Deep breath. Is this side different? And returning ragdoll. This time, inhale, bring your hands up to your shins and extend halfway up. Exhale, drop the butt into chair. Now you might be in more of a bar stool up here or coming down real deep. Totally up to you. What do your legs and knees want right now? Maybe you'd like the extra balance challenge coming onto the balls of the feet. Inhale, root and rise. Exhaling, prayer hands. So I want to come into, again, a stretch for that quadricep front body and hold for a little longer. So I want to find a place that's sustainable for each of us. If that knee down on the floor thing felt good, then that might be your stretch. Alternately, I know some people are really comfortable with and get a good yield out of standing quad stretch. it's a balancing pose, so you might want to be able to hold on to a wall or something. Make sure that you're not hinging forward if you're doing that, right? We don't want this to be our pose. It needs to be as if we were still standing upright. And alternatively, you could play with pre-bow, which is basically that lead up to bow, and where we're on our front body, we grab both ankles. But I think ideally one where you're just doing one at a time for this is best. So either this standing quad stretch or this knee down stretch here, where we're letting gravity kind of help us and pressing into it. And it might just really depend on how tight you are there and like what angle you need to create to get a stretch. Alternatively, if you're in knee down and you need to deepen it, you might be able to reach back for that ankle. Okay, so we're going to do both sides, and we're going to hold for about a minute. And again, when I say holding, it doesn't mean that you're stagnant or frozen, but we're staying in the position, obviously, unless something hurts. Okay, so when you're ready, find your first side if you haven't already. I'm sure most of you have, as I've been yakking away. So we'll go for about 45 seconds here more, breathing deeply. And try to keep your hips squared. By the way, you could also add something under the knee for padding. And so your breathing and holding is an invitation to those muscles to know it's safe, it's okay to let go here. Hopefully it really allows you to notice the connectivity, right? Nothing is in isolation, so you can feel the stretch continue up or down. All right, let's find our other side. So whichever version you're working, again, it could be knee down, it could be standing quad. If you're in the standing quad stretch, a reminder that you want to bring that bent knee back towards the standing leg. And again, if you're knee down, hip bones shine forward. Very, very important. One of the add-ons that I make if I'm grabbing my ankle in either position is that flaring of yoga toes. So really creating intelligence all the way to the very tips of your feet. Is this side of your body different? What can you notice? I notice how the breath really amplifies the stretch that I've already got going. Okay, about 10 more seconds. And releasing. Nice. Give it a good shake out. We're going to come down to seated and have you do a little quick self-massage actually around your knee joint and up into that upper thigh. So I'm going to, if you have a hard time sitting upright without something under your butt, then grab, again, like a folded blanket or something. You don't want to be on like a high bolster, just enough to give you comfort up through the spine. And if this is just too much, you could also like sit and put your foot out on an ottoman or something. But you're going to grab around your leg just above the knee. So I've got my thumbs directly above the kneecap. And then I'm just going to take my thumbs and I'm going to kind of what I call scrub. I'm going to kind of go up and down like so. And then I'm going to take those thumbs further out along the kneecap and just continue that motion. And maybe you're feeling a lot, maybe not much at all. Then we're going to take that, kind of come back to the center above the kneecap, and we're going to take that scrubbing motion kind of up into the thigh. And you know, it's up to you to play. There's that center line, and then of course there's to both sides of it. So if you get to the outside here a little bit, you might find a really sensation-filled channel where the quadriceps kind of meet up with the IT bands. That's almost always fun. Make sure you're still breathing. Try to use your core here, shoulders down, so we're not doing this with the neck and all hunched up. Good. Let's find the other side when you're ready. Again, you can roll out wrists anytime. So above the left kneecap, and just doing that little bit of scrubbing. What we're doing is inviting, if there are any kind of, again, sticky places or places that are holding harder that aren't allowing just a full and even stretch when we're doing the pose we just did, we're kind of now inviting them to let go. So make your way out around the top of the kneecap, kind of a little bit of a horseshoe there, and kind of keep scrubbing up and down. And does this side feel different? Now, some of us know, we've got one knee that bothers us, we've got one shoulder or whatever. Sometimes we're not aware until we get there with our own touch. Eventually start making your way up into the thigh, breathing. And of course, you don't have to be looking down, although there's sort of a natural inclination. If you want to close your eyes and just feel what you're creating, please do. So again, there's kind of a side channel, both on the inner leg and the outer side of those quadriceps that's often very useful. All right. So let's take that into some of our warrior, shall we? I really enjoy warrior, and often I think we don't feel as strong in the pose, not because we're weak, but because we're tight. So I'm hoping you'll find something a little new here. So bringing your hands to your hips, mountain pose, feeling again that rooting through the inner foot, and as you're ready, step your left foot straight back into your crescent lunge. Pause, do a little dip like we were just doing. Wow, I feel a lot more fluid. Now pause in crescent lunge. You've got that thigh really activated. The front knee is directly over the front heel. See if you can take it deeper. We're just going to hold for one breath. Express yourself. Where do you want your arms today? Out, up, jet airplane, prayer. Exhaling, we're going to plant that back foot, warrior two. Turn it so the foot is 90 degrees. Check those thighs are externally rotating, and maybe give it a couple of quick pulses so you can, again, feel what's going on in there. Hold for one full breath, arms reaching out from the heart. Inhaling, both legs straight and reaching up towards the sky. Pause. So I'm going to add a little triangle in here to our warrior today. So when you're ready, bringing your hands to your hips, squeeze the thigh muscles of that front thigh towards the bone. This is really important. I'm not hyperextending. And also check if your butt is kind of out behind you, your thigh bone is going to be at an angle. You want it, in fact, again, thighs rotating externally so that thigh is nice and straight with the foot. Then cock that right hip down. This right here is an awesome pose. I'd rather have you be here and feel powerful than trying to go deeper and touch the floor or anything crazy, right? So pause, feel the power from the back foot through the crown of the head, get those shoulders stacked. Maybe release your lower hand, letting it kind of slide down the inside of the foot. You can also look at the floor, just don't let the shoulder go with it. If you'd like more intensity, then you're adding that upper arm. If you feel like just a pull, don't do it. If it feels like a great stretch, awesome. And when you're ready to come up, it's like a great pulley, bringing us up. Excellent. We're going to move to downward facing dog, and I want to offer a few different ways to get there. Some of you are very comfortable in flow or transition, which is what our flow class is more about. But I want to take us here in basics into kind of the option and also a way to get there, because it can be kind of fun. So if you want to go into downward dog and you feel really fluid, you're just going to rotate and plant the hands, okay? If not, then you're going to just come onto the ball of your back foot, step it forward back to your mountain, and then plant the hands and step back to downward facing dog. So you're just breaking it down into a few more easeful movements. Let's all find downward dog, or maybe you're ready for an alternate. You're like, oh, I need child's pose, or you just want to hang out in ragdoll. Either way, relax the head and join me in 3 sighing breaths. If you're in downward dog, you might be working your heels towards the floor. We don't care if they ever get there, but that invitation creates a wonderful back body stretch. Marvelous. And if you're in dog, slowly walk your hands back to your feet, ragdoll back of the mat. Inhale, root and rise. And prayer hands, resolve. Okay, we're going to come to the front of the mat. Unless you want to hop with me, you can just walk it. All right. So neutral, straightforward feet. Again, if you should know by now, do you need to check yours? Is that a habit of yours that they turn out? And step back with that right foot into your crescent lunge. Pause, hands on hips, and give a dip or two. And just see if you've got a little more fluidity in that right thigh. I hope so. And then hold. Express yourself. One full breath here. Reaching with that back thigh and heel towards the wall behind you. Exhaling, transition to warrior two. So again, I want this back leg really engaged and powerful. Thighs externally rotating. So I don't want that butt out behind ever in this flow. And express yourself here. Arms reaching out from heart, maybe your platter hands. And you go a little deeper, sinking it on that exhale, butt moving towards that left heel. Ah, good. Straighten the legs and reach up. So even here, start thinking about the thigh muscles of that front leg, squeezing towards the bone, pushing the earth away. Good. And bringing hands to hips, cock that left hip down, stack that right shoulder back. Again, make sure that you've got a nice straight alignment, that that left butt is swinging in towards that right edge of the mat. And maybe you're letting go through that left arm, sliding down the inside, never resting on the knee ever. And really you shouldn't have to rest. If you're getting pretty low and you want to use a block or something, fine, but otherwise, I should feel free floating, right? I've got all this power in the back leg through my core body. Maybe you're adding that upper arm. Maybe you're sending your gaze towards the ceiling. Maybe to the floor. Deep breath. And on an inhale, it's as if a long pulley is bringing you up. Nice. We're going to return to downward facing dog. So again, your option to rotate onto the ball of the back foot and plant the hands, or step forward into your rag doll. And then as you're ready, step back. So invitation to just hold here or settle into child's pose. Or I'm going to invite you in just a little pumping upward dog to downward dog. So we started our practice in a knee down upward dog, and you can create that again by just coming forward like you would to plank, dropping the knees, and drawing forward through the heart. Alternatively, you're either on the balls of the feet or on the tops of the feet. Exhaling, downward facing dog. And if this is just all too much on hands or knees, go ahead and do a standing hip pump. Basically, just bring your butt a little behind and squeeze it forward. And that's a wonderful way to undulate this lower spine like we are. Last time. Working those heels towards the floor. Ah, marvelous. We're going to come on to our butt once again. So however you would like to get there. So we're going to be seated on the butt, and we really want to feel the sits bones. So that's those two bony guys at the base of the butt, and then we want to feel that upright spine. Now, I don't know about you, but just being here is actually already a fair bit of work. I can feel the need to talk to these lower abdominal muscles. Sometimes I call them the robot muscles. We woke them up in a robot pose. So way low, right above the pubic bone, in between the hips. Boom. And we're going to take the hands in behind the knees and just walk those feet as far back as you can and kind of draw the heart forward. So this is your impetus to be really straight in the spine. And then just see if you can flip your feet up off of the floor. And you might find yourself kind of wobbling. That's actually great. What you don't want to do is cave. So I'd rather have you have your feet on the floor and maybe even just lift one at a time than cave. If you feel like you don't necessarily need the hands anymore, go ahead and give them a little freedom. So some of you know this is a great workup to boat pose or Navasana, but this is a helpful way for us to get all the benefits, feel the integrity of the pose. Soft neck. And release. Come on down to your back. Keep those feet wide. We're going to come into a nice horse riding stance. So it's like bridge, but with those feet wide. Coming in and out, I find really useful. So you want to press up, feel all the vigor in the stretch, and come down. Again, you can marry it with breath, inhaling down, exhaling up. Couple more to your breath timing. Last one. And release, bringing knees into belly. Some of you might be inspired to go to Happy Baby. That can feel great here. Remember, if grabbing the feet is awkward for you, you could grab ankles. You can also use a strap or a scarf across the arches of the feet. Softening the neck, yeah. Nice, and then bringing those heels together in butterfly, bringing them towards the butt and pressing the knees away. And you know, we do this a lot at the beginning of practice, but I'm hoping after all this leg and hip work that there's kind of a unique opportunity for deeper stretch here. Sometimes it feels good to pull the feet apart a little bit and kind of work the knees towards the floor. You can also, if you want, add a little sit-up motion and do kind of a windshield wiper. See if you can bring your foot to your nose. Sometimes it happens, not very often for me, but it just did. And then we're going to release for abdominal pumping. So you could be here with your feet flat. You could straighten the legs and corpse. So it's just a matter of what feels okay on your back. Go ahead first, just bring your hands to your abdomen, please. Become aware of the enlivenment in your touch. And you might maintain the hands there or relax them, totally up to you. But we'll come into our belly pumping. We'll do about 3 rounds. And again, depending on your breath capacity, it'll go faster or slower. But gather a long inhale, big Buddha belly. Exhale, empty the breath, and hold out. With the breath held out, draw your belly in like you're saying, see how skinny I am. And then push it towards the sky, big Buddha belly. So it's all without breathing. Until you need to. And you can do a sighing breath or whatever feels delicious. Let's do 2 more rounds. And a reminder that you can speed or slow the pumping. And that is going to bring you into touch with all kinds of sensations inside. So this is a great chance to notice, where do I feel stretches? Where do I feel ache? Where do I feel fluid? Inhaling, exhaling, empty, hold out, external kumbhaka, and begin your pumping. Draw in and press out. A reminder, you are not breathing at all. I often hear people do this kind of, and there is nothing. You've created a vacuum on purpose. So there's no breath inside and you are not breathing until you need to. Take a neutral breath. And we'll come into our last round. Notice if the sensations change by this time. I hope so. Long gathering. Emptying. Hold out. And begin. And I'm going to invite you to make circles on the abdomen with your hands. So ideally, we would do it in this direction. the right hip bone coming up to the right rib to start. So that's our ascending colon. And you would go up and then across the top to the left and then down the left side to the left hip and across. So you're making a full circle in the direction of digestion. And you can just do a very, gentle, loving touch, flat hand, or you can also kind of intend to press in with either the heel of your hand or your fingers if that feels desirable. So along the way, if you find a place that you recognized as kind of stagnant, maybe a little stiff, maybe a little ouchy, you might pause and just sort of press in towards your body. And you can also press towards the center line a little bit. So if you kind of, again, you could do this very gently and it's still very effective. So if you're already got something going on that's kind of tender, don't be diving right in with a really intense touch, right? So you're listening deeply to what your body might want as you press a little towards your center, both down and inward towards the belly button, if you will. Breathing, noticing, loving. This is really a great time to be in a loving attendance and attention to the body. We've always known that this center body is very important, but it's been really fun in recent years as science has been able to identify that this is actually very key to our immune system and actual whole parts of our intelligence and our nervous system live in the belly. So all those phrases we've had about having a gut instinct or taking a kick to the gut or what have you, it turns out they were more right on than just sort of a metaphorical reference. Nice. And when you feel complete with that massage, then just do again another little circle. And then if you're able to, not everyone's going to be able to do this laying down especially, but because of hand or wrist flexibility as well. But if you're able to just kind of settle those hands in a little bit around to the back of your waist, just kind of tuck them in and just see if you can talk to that kind of kidney area and the back of where our internal organs sit. Just send it a little energy. And then relax your hands, arms, however you'd like. And I'm going to ask you to come into compression and expansion breathing. And again, this is a breath practice that we often begin with, but I'm hoping you'll come into it now with a levels of awareness and attention that is just really different. So if you're not still laying down, please do. On your next exhale, firmly, firmly anchor belly towards spine. Anchor the spine towards the floor and keep emptying. You might use your fingertips to talk to some of those muscles. Add your pelvic floor engagement as a part of that squeezing mechanism. Out, out, out. Neck is soft. When there's nothing left to squeeze, soften. Inhale. And continue. So for those of you that were with me in last week's practice, you'll remember that we talked about Dirga Pranayama, or three-part breathing. And I'm just going to briefly talk about it here. If this feels like too much, let my words kind of wash on by and just work with your compression and expansion. But otherwise, the main thing I want you to think about is as you let go of the exhale compression, when it's done, and the inhale starts to flow in, witness its path of motion and notice if it's taking the three-part path. Ideally it is. And that's where the inhale initiates movement in the lower belly, then in the diaphragmatic area through the ribs, both front and side, and of course back, and then up into the clavicle area. And we'll only usually feel this clavicle breath in that last, 10% of inhale, right? So be patient. Keep asking, is there more? Keep filling. And then again, exhale and compression. Now, the more you squeeze and empty out, the more filling you're going to get, right? In our normal daily breath, we exhale maybe 60 to 70% of our exhale. Here we are inviting 90 some percent out, hopefully close to 100. So we're also getting a much more oxygenated breath in, but also you're getting a bigger massage throughout your body and breath space. So I'm going to ask you to do this for about another minute and just deeply attentive to what's happening in the body and the breath. Notice if your mind wanders, come on back for just a little while longer, another 10-15 seconds. Deeply attentive. Are you able to talk to some part of your body that was asleep or stagnated, numbed out, and wake it up? This is a beautiful time to affirm that you are well and whole and safe. It's also a beautiful time to acknowledge and recognize that there may be parts of the body that have been in injury or challenge in some way, but to recognize that the majority of your systems are operating beautifully. If you're able to do what we just did, your center being is doing great, and all these systems are working great. You've just got maybe a few blips on the system that are talking to you, saying, ouch, or hey, I need help. I think it's important to remember that, because often if you have more than one thing going on, people start to say, oh, I'm falling apart at the seams, I'm a wreck. And it's important to catch those thoughts, and if we can, switch them. You know, it's okay to feel sorry for yourselves, frankly, for a little bit, and just go, this sucks, I hurt, or this is hard. But to not let ourselves believe that actually we're falling apart. So as you complete the breath practice, when you're ready, come into whatever complete resting shape you'd like. Maybe it's on the belly again. Maybe it's on your back. Maybe you'd like to be in child's pose. You could put your legs up on the couch or ottoman. That can be wonderfully restorative. Perhaps you cover yourself with the shawl or throw that you have handy. And we're going to take a few minutes here, about 3, to really let this all absorb and soak in. So if you find yourself uncomfortable, switch your shape. We want to feel deeply restful. If some of you like the pose that I often offer with the block under the sacrum or under the bra strap, and you want to use that during your Shavasana, these 3 minutes, you could. I just request, if it becomes at all uncomfortable, please come out. Okay. So once again, turn your gaze inward. Tune in. Tune in to your body, but also just the sense of your being, kind of the witness, the part of you that has been instructing the body, instructing the breath, that's been observing and noticing. And with that same witness, inviting you to scan the body. And you're really just available for information. Is there anything that the body would like you to know? Is there anything that you discovered in the practice? Anything particularly useful? you've completed your scan, you might send a message of loving kindness inward, appreciation, whatever form that takes today. Wishing you all a beautiful entry into spring. Hoping you take the time in these coming weeks to really notice what your body needs to feel fluid and strong and capable and ready to go out into all the natural world that's going to start blossoming. Thank you so much for joining me at the mat today. Namaste. Whatever else you do off the mat, remember to breathe deeply and have fun.